So you were saying like consistency, when we're consistent and then God, he moves the needle, like he calls us to a higher level. And so I'm at this point where I feel like he's calling me to a much higher level. And I feel like my spirituality is becoming much more serious, like with what's going on in the world and Israel and what I'm doing is raising up an army of people who want to go out and fulfill the Great Commission. And so these are people who like are really committed to the Lord, who are willing to die, in the name of Jesus. And so I'm looking at that and I'm like, and I feel deep down inside like I need more mature spiritual guidance. And this has been like a battle with the church that I'm going to for so long because it's a really cool, hip, trendy church where they're never really going to talk about any of the issues that are going on in the world. It's great, and but I feel like in order for me to lead the way I need to be led, I need to surround myself with a different group of people who are looking at the world differently and everything. And so there's this church that is also in LA called Calvary Chapel. And it's Pastor Jack Hibbs, who's pretty well known for like speaking the truth and going against abortion and all these things. And he's just like, his church is right down from me. And I feel like this battle between the two, I feel like pulled there because I went and I was at an apologetics conference there and it just felt like, wow, there's something different here. And I feel this pull right now. And I feel like God is like pulling me to step into that realm with those kind of spiritual leaders, but then I also am afraid to let go of like my family of believers that I have, and there's this push and this pull. And so the other day, I went down to a coffee shop in Hermosa Beach, which I've never been to. My roommate just invited me, and we go there, and I'm walking into a store, or I'm walking out of a store, and this guy stops me and he says, "Hey, are you so and so? You're the worship leader at Calvary Chapel, right?" And I was like, "Nope, not at all." And he's like, "Oh, you're not? Oh, you look just like him." And I was just like, but I know Calvary Chapel, like Jack Hibbs, and he's like, oh yeah, isn't he amazing? And I'm like, yeah, he's like he's real, and I was just like, Lord, is that a sign? Like, are you just making it so clear that it's time for me to move into that next area of my faith and really like be around leaders who are really challenging the status quo and things that are going on in the world? And so I'm sitting on this call and I'm like, well, if I have access to you and some wisdom right now, like I'm going to get some coaching on this because I've been going back and forth and I feel like my spirit needs to be fed and needs that kind of leadership that's going to talk about things that are going on in the world because now I'm preparing other people. I feel like I have this responsibility to prepare these warriors to step into the world that we're walking into. And but how am I going to do that if I'm not like being fed that way? So any advice would be amazing.
Well, I think God always does things in order. And as a pastor, I will tell you, I've seen way too many people just leave a church and never say anything. And I believe a church is a family. If it's not a family, then you don't need to be in that church. Like there needs to be a deep connection because when you're a part of a church, you're part of that body and what it's doing. So think about your body. If you just lost a kneecap today, how would the lower half of your leg operate? So we have to be very careful if you're really in tuned and connected and you believe God has you in that church if for a season, then you have to ask him first, God, are you pulling me out? Because I believe if he's pulling you out, there's somebody else that has to go into that space. I think sometimes two things can happen. Either you just pull out because you're ready to run and there's no uh, conversation with the leadership, or um, you run out because you're tired of being that, and there's a void that's left because it wasn't in God's timing. So I think if God's calling you to that, God, I want to know it's you first and foremost. I don't want to run out of something. I want to be moving to something. And I believe there's power in closing one door to step into the next season. If God's calling you. So I think doing it in the right place is going to challenge you a little bit because if you feel that's the why, if ask God what the why is, where you're at, what you at, because you have to be able to voice that in anything you do. I see too many people that constantly bounce from place to place because they don't understand the why. And you could always be chasing something. You could chase a man who's very smart, and God may still have something in this season before He closes that door that you're supposed to get to prepare you before you even get to that place. I see a lot of people who go to a place like that and they're bought into the man And I've seen a lot of pastors fail. Good pastors, good, smart, with a lot of wisdom fail. And if you're there because you're bought into a man and that man fails, now you're in the wind because you're not moving into a body of believers, you're moving into a person. So it's really knowing if where God has you for the season. A body transplant requires a removal from one because it no longer needs you and moving to a place that does need you. So don't move out of a place of hunger. Move out of a place of necessity. Be intentional with your movement, and God will put you in the right place at the right time. So that's